Hey guys, welcome to the third video of History of India for Children. In the last video, I have talked about Harappan cities and their downfall. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Indo-Aryan people. As a result of the downfall of Harappan cities, a new chapter began in the history of India. At this time, the Indo-Aryan people moved into Punjab from the farthest northwest. They were nomadic people. They were always on the move, along with their cattle, in search of new pastures. They did not build cities. We know about the Aryans from the oldest literature, Vedas. Those probably light-skinned Aryans were the group who invaded and conquered ancient India. According to the hypothesis, Aryans' literature, culture, and modes of social organization subsequently shaped the course of Indian religion, particularly the Vedic religion. The Vedic religion evolved into present-day Hinduism. However, in the late 20th century, a growing number of scholars rejected the hypothesis of the Aryan invasion. There are mentions of battles and destructions of the cities in Vedas. So we can assume that they came into conflict with the Harappans but did not occupy their cities and instead moved eastwards and occupied the plains around the Yamuna and Ganga. The Aryans did not have any temples. They prayed by building altars in open air by sacrificing animals while priests sang verses of praise. These verses, called shlokas, would one day be collected in the Vedas. The Aryans had no written script, so these verses were preserved by memorization of generations of priests and centuries later were finally written down. In later Vedic time, there were kings and various battles were fought. There were a few people who kept the history of that period alive in the form of epics. Two of them are Ramayana and Mahabharata. The Aryans were divided into tribes called Janas. The chief of those tribes were called the Rajan. These tribes mostly fought with each other. Most of the fights started when one tribe raided the battle herd of the other tribe. Aryans lived in families. Sons helped their fathers in agriculture and girls helped in the household chores. At that time, the girls were less valued than the boys. There were no child marriages and girls chose their husbands by themselves. Women did not weal and widows didn't remarry. Initially, the caste system appeared in the Vedic region. The divisions were Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Brahmins included teachers, physicians, and priests. Kshatriyas, warriors. Vaishyas included farmers, craftsmen, and traders. And Shudras, laborers. Initially, the caste system was very flexible. People used to intermarry and social mixing was practiced. The caste system became very complicated and rigid. Over the centuries, Aryans started living across the Indo-Gangetic plain in North India. They lived from villages to towns to cities to kingdoms. During this time, Aryans discovered iron and used iron axes to clear forests and settle at one place all across UP and Bihar. Iron was used by craftsmen and coins started to replace the old bath system. And after 1,000 years of Harappan civilization, India once again started to transform into an urban civilization. The kingdoms fought various battles. The smaller republics were conquered by larger republics like Kosala and Magadha. Around the 6th BC, kingdoms had well-organized administration and text-collecting systems. This was also the time where great philosophers and thinkers emerged. Teachers and gurus started teaching in schools called ashrams or gurukuls. Among the thinkers were the rishis or sages who wrote the Upanishads. The Brahmins refused to share their knowledge about the Vedas with others, which made other non-Brahmins, especially Kshatriyas, critical about them. Two other Kshatriya thinkers were Buddha and Mahavira. Their teachings have lasted the test of time and are now part of our daily lives. Gautam Buddha founded Buddhism and Vardhaman Mahavira founded Jainism. They rejected the caste system and preached in people's spoken language, Pale, and not in Sanskrit, which made it easy for common people to understand them. The merchants started inter-kingdom trades by land as well as by sea. These trades made craftsmen and merchants rich. They were attracted to the teachings of both the Buddha and Mahavira, who treated them equally in contrast to the old caste system, in which the Brahmins and Kshatriyas were superior to them. In the 326th BC, Alexander, king of Great Kingdom Macedonia, invaded India after crossing the river Indus. He then challenged King Porus, ruler of the kingdom between the rivers Jhelum and Chenab. The Porus was defeated even though they fought with elephants, which the Macedonians have never seen before. Alexander captured Porus and, like other local rulers which Alexander had defeated, allowed him to govern his territory. During his trip to the river Hydaspes and Indus, he sought out the great Indian philosophers and debated with them on philosophical topics. He became famous in India for being both a wise philosopher and a fearless conqueror. One of the villages in which he and his army had halted belonged to the tribe Malis. The Malis were said to be one of the most warlike tribes of India. Alexander had been wounded several times in this attack, more seriously when an arrow pierced his breastplate and his ribcage. The Macedonian officers rescued him from the village. Alexander and his army reached the mouth of the river Indus in the 325th BC and turned westward for home. On the way back home, Alexander died at the age of 33. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. In the next video, I'll be talking about the magnificent Mauryans. Till then, goodbye.